Haunted Adeline's getting a movie. Now, before I get into the video, I just want to clarify that this video does contain mentions of sexual assault. So if that's a triggering topic for you, I highly recommend you don't watch this video. I'm gonna give you an idea about what this book revolves around in case you're unfamiliar with it. Basically, it's about this girl whose name is Adeline, and she gets stalked by this dude right here. His name is Zaid Meadows. And basically he just keeps stalking her, killing people around her, and sexually assaulting her multiple times throughout the book. And the problem is, this book is labeled as a romantic book, which doesn't make any sense because it literally depicts the character getting assaulted multiple times by this guy. The problem is not only the book, but those who are defending it, and even going as far as to say that she liked it, even though in the book itself it portrays her mentioning multiple times that she in fact did not. And I'm going to sort of show you a bunch of things that were said in the book so that you can kind of get an idea on what I'm talking about. You can pause this if you want. All right, there you have it. So in today's video, I'm going to be reacting to a set of videos that some people made about this book and how much they like it. And yeah, let's get into it.
You cannot tell me that if this man right here, if this man was outside of your house right now, peeking in your little window, leaving your little roses all over your kitchen counter, that you would not let him do the shit that he did. You're a liar. You're a liar. Oh, look at this. You're lying. If you even say for 1 second that you wouldn't let him, you know which one I'm talking about. You would let him.
Andrea, I don't know if you realize what exactly you're implying by that, because what you're saying is that if an average person had the stuff that happened to Adeline in this book happen to them, that they would let him because he's so handsome. So what you're basically saying is that if somebody got sexually assaulted by someone who is conventionally attractive, you completely invalidate that. And if they come out and they say this and that happened to them, and they show you the person that did that to them, would you really go, oh, then you must have liked it and you must have let him do that because look at him? Like, honestly, get help. Not only that, she doubled down on it.
By that logic, horror movies normalize murder. Dexter normalizes being a serial unaliver. Game of Thrones normalizes incest and also rape. Silence of the Lambs normalizes cannibalism. Stories can explore dark subjects without endorsing them. It is fiction. Reading about something is not the same as approving of it. We seem to understand that murder in movies is not an endorsement, so why is fiction different here? If your standard is fiction can never portray immoral acts, then you're eliminating most literature, horror, thrillers, crime fiction. So let's use our brains, people, okay?
Okay, so I hate to break it to you, but there is a reason why those movies are labeled as horror. Those two books, on the other hand, they're not labeled as horror books. No, they're labeled as romance. And if it really didn't condone it, then the freaking book wouldn't have the ending that it has, which is essentially Adeline and Zaid Meadows getting together and getting freaking married.
Hats off to H.D. Carlton for this masterpiece. It brought out my ugly cry more than once.
Well, based off the way she's talking about the book and the way she's fangirling over it multiple times on her page, I'm assuming that the reason she cried isn't the same as one might think. Let's go over the comments for a bit, yeah?
The fact that they were two different people after they came back to each other, and Zayd had become so patient with Adeline and became part of her healing. This book really had me in pieces.
Aw, how nice of him to become a part of her healing after everything he did.
The second part really affected me. It was really hard to read all of that. And also their healing, I was broken and then healed again with them. I know everyone is like, haunting Adeline is so weird and dark. People are missing the trauma and torture. There was more to those books than smut, and H.D. Carlton was one of the few people that did it.
Okay, so I think what they're talking about in here is, I haven't read Haunting Adeline, but I think it's like she gets kidnapped and he sort of rescues her, and they're talking about that and how he's helping her heal and stuff. And that's why I guess they're talking about how it broke them. That's what they're talking about, and not the bits where he literally essays her multiple times during the book. Not to mention that when it was said that the book is becoming a movie, some people are literally talking about how excited they are for the scenes that portray the shit that he kept doing to her. Before anybody comments on how I'm talking about how this book is trying to make scenes of those moments, and I'm sort of talking about how that's not okay, and I'm not talking about the other movies that portray that stuff. First of all, I don't think scenes like that should be portrayed in movies at all. And if there is a storyline that sort of implies it, it shouldn't be implied or put in a way that is romanticized, because like I said, this book does condone the stuff that he did, and if it didn't, it wouldn't give Adeline and Zayd that stupid happy ending. It sort of sends out a message that it's completely okay for them to do that as long as they ask for forgiveness and I guess play the hero in some sort of different scenario. These are the storylines that go, nobody can hurt her but me. People have spent decades advocating against violence against women. And yes, while despite that advocacy, that violence still exists to this day, the creation of media that condones it only makes the issue much, much worse.
A man, not a rapist, changed my mind. He was a murderer, a rapist, a pedophile.
Oh my god, that's so horrible.
But he loved animals.
Oh, okay. You guys, he loved animals though, and he took care of them, so it's fine. Yeah, we love him, and we forgive him for all of the stuff that he did. Because, honestly, when you look at it from a certain angle, he's justified.
What makes you say that?
Well, because, he loves animals, so obviously he's a good person, so every other action that he did is justifiable. So, yeah. He loves animals, so everything else doesn't matter. Shut up! So, because of this, a lot of people have been rightfully upset about how this abomination of a book is being made into a movie. So, the author made a response to this. Let's see what she has to say.
I wanted to come on here and clarify a few things, but before I do that, I want to apologize. But this apology is for a very specific group of people. Whether you're a fan of Haunting Adeline, or you hate it, or you've never read it, or you don't care about it, but you believe in its right to exist as a book or a movie, I am so sorry for what you've had to experience this past week. Whether you've engaged in the discourse or you were just a silent observer, you've been subjected to an immeasurable amount of harm. And you did not deserve that. And what I find most ironic is the majority of the people who have an issue with Haunting Adeline have an issue with Zayd's hypocrisy. And he is a hypocrite. Just like the people who claim they care about those who are sexually assaulted and raped, yet came on here and wished that exact thing on other people. As well as threatening or joking about physically harming others, or judging them, invalidating them, shaming them for how they choose to heal or cope with their trauma, or just because they simply enjoy something in the privacy of their own homes. You cannot champion for sexual assault and rape survivors, and in the same breath condemn them and validate them and shame them for how they cope and heal from their trauma simply because you do not agree with it. That's not how championing for sexual assault survivors works. And you don't get to cherry pick which ones you deem worthy of your protection and then go and harm the other ones because of how they choose to heal. And listen, I don't care what anyone thinks or says about me. I don't care if you believe my trauma or not. You all have been trying and failing for the last several years to hurt me and cause me harm, and it's never worked and it never will work. But I do care about all of the people that you've caused an insane amount of harm to this past week. So whether you read dark romance specifically with non-con triggers because it helps you heal or cope with your trauma, or just because you like it, you are not wrong, you are not disgusting, and you are not unhealthy. And there are countless licensed therapists who would agree with that. The ones who do heal from it are not harming themselves and they're not harming anyone else. And the majority of the people who do say it's harmful are extremely uneducated on the matter and have no qualifications to be telling anyone that. And the only people who have said such disgusting things are the people who don't believe in this book or this movie's right to exist. And if anyone should be ashamed of themselves, it's them. But I know they're not. There are also a few things that I want to clarify. At this point, no one knows what this movie is going to be and how it's going to be handled. And for those who say that this movie is going to cause men to assault women, anything will cause a man to assault a woman. A bad day will. The World Cup will. That's why they've been doing it since the dawn of humanity. And no one and nothing is to blame for a man harming a woman except the man. And getting this movie banned is not going to stop that from happening. And censorship is very dangerous because if you get one movie banned, what is to stop people from banning media that you do agree with? What is to stop them from banning media with any type of violence, no matter their genre? Once you ban one, you ban them all. So with all of that said, I want to again apologize to all of the dark romance readers who were subjected to an insane amount of harm this past week. Whether you read my books or not, I am so sorry you had to deal with that. While I appreciate how so many of you have defended Haunting Adeline's right to be a book and a movie, what has touched me most is seeing you guys not only defend yourselves, but other survivors. That is what championing for sexual assault and rape survivors actually looks like, and I'm so thankful for all of you, as well as the people who came on here and shared vulnerable and personal stories. You are so incredibly strong for doing so. You didn't deserve anything you've been through, and none of you, survivor or not, deserved what you've had to experience this past week. And reader of mine or not, I am so incredibly privileged to be in the same community as you all. And I am very incredibly privileged that so many of you are my readers. This movie is still happening, and we are doing it for you guys.
Okay, so there's a lot to go through here. First of all, yes, it is true that certain sexual assault survivors will consume that kind of media as a coping mechanism, essentially, to the trauma that they've been through. And it is not in any way, shape, or form my intention to invalidate the feelings of those survivors, nor am I trying to invalidate the urge that they have to resort to such media. However, it's the way that you word it. You say how you use that book to cope and heal, as if coping and healing are synonymous terms, which, first of all, they aren't. And that is because it is highly encouraged of someone to try to heal, and it is highly discouraged of them to use coping mechanisms. So while yes, I can understand why they would resort to consuming that sort of media as a way of coping, that doesn't mean that I'm supposed to just encourage it, because it is only harming them a lot more, and it's harming others because it's putting it out there to people who didn't go through any sort of trauma, and they just think that it's something that's normal. And it also harms them because instead of actually doing healing as a way to get over that situation, or not even get over it, just realize that they are more than what happened to them. It just lets them sort of sit and simmer in that trauma. For instance, if somebody went through something that is extremely traumatic, and say they resorted to smoking or drinking or drugs, you would understand why they resorted to that, because it's accessible, their coping mechanism, and it helps them temporarily forget. However, what it doesn't do is help them heal from that situation, because they just use that substance, feel good for a little bit, but once it wears off, they just remember that situation and they keep feeling worse and worse. So they use that substance again, and they keep using it and using it over again until they're addicted to it. They're dependent on it. They need it to be whole. That right there is coping, which should not be encouraged. What is encouraged, though, is healing, which, again, for the millionth time, is not synonymous with coping. And also she said how the people that do consume it are not disgusting in any way. And while yes, if they do consume it as a coping mechanism to get over what they went through, they're not disgusting, and they do need to be understood by the people around them so as to start with their healing journey. What I do think is disgusting, however, is the people who didn't go through that stuff, the people who are making videos about that book and essentially condoning the things that are happening in them as if they were normal. And she also talks about how people said that the book will encourage men to sexually assault people. And while yes, I do agree that plenty of things encourage sexual assault, and that book is a very small part of the fuel that is being added to the fire, it doesn't change the fact that it's still a fuel that is added to the fire, and it shouldn't be there. And that other stuff she brought up about how the World Cup, how a bad day or no reason at all makes men assault people. That is true, yes, but it is clearly not something that actively condones it. Like people running around a field chasing a ball, that is not something that actively says SA is okay. Marry the person that did that because they freaking have heterochromia. That stuff doesn't actively say that. This book does. And that's my issue with it. And yeah, that is pretty much my whole take on this situation. Let me guys know what you think down below in the comments. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye!